Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
Well, hello, my name is J.P. McLean, and I'm an award-winning author of urban fantasy and supernatural thrillers. And I am here today to read to you the beginning of Blood Mark. And just a heads up, this is an adult-themed book, and it does have some cursing in it. Chapter 1, Jane. Jane Walker might have been the only person in Vancouver not afraid to be in a downtown alley at midnight. Shadows clung to fissures and corners, morphing into nightmare shapes as she passed. A warm breeze stirred the scent of rotting garbage, along with her gag reflex. Rescuing Sadie was getting old. One of these nights, Sadie's unique way of punishing herself would be the death of them both, and maybe Jane's bike. She parked next to Ethan's Fat Boy in the hopes his reputation would spill over and protect her cherished Honda 500. But the caged bulb above the back door worried her. It bled a weak circle of light that pooled near the bikes. It was a toss-up whether it would draw attention or act as a deterrent. She said a prayer for the latter and removed her helmet. A slamming door punctuated a heated argument drifting down from a nearby apartment. She raked her long hair forward to hide the worst of the birthmark on her face, then walked around the corner, bypassing the dregs of Riptide's nightly queue. A bouncer she knew manned the door. His steady gaze slid sideways at her approach. Booze from the lineup he held at bay prompted him to inhale, emphasizing the girth of his chest. He flexed biceps larger than her thighs, whipped his chin, and let her pass. She nodded her thanks and stepped inside. A cocktail of perfume and stale sweat assaulted her. Thumping music reverberated in her chest as she scanned the bar for Ethan Bryce and found him pouring shots. A seasoned bartender, he worked the room like a ringside bookie at an illegal fight, smiling with one eye and watching for trouble with the other. "Thanks for calling," Jane said, pressing into the bar. "Where is she?" Ethan held her gaze a moment longer than necessary, then swiped his head to the left. Jane followed his line of sight to the dance floor, where her roommate swayed at a step with the music. Sadie had gone with Tasteful tonight, wearing her LBD, as she called her little black dress. Her client must have been a high roller. Unlike the roided-up jockstrap now keeping Sadie upright with a hand on her ass and a sure-bet smile on his face. Jane strode through the dancers, but stopped short of her. "Sadie?" she shouted over the music. Sadie lifted her head from jockstrap's shoulder and struggled to focus. "Nark?" She blew at a stray blonde curl. Jane winced at the nickname Sadie rarely used in public. "You know her?" Jockstrap asked. "Sure, Tim, meet Nark. Dance with us." Sadie reached for Jane. Her mascara had smudged, leaving charcoal shadows under her eyes. It's what 2 lines of Coke and a few too many vodka chasers looked like. Jane took her hand. "Let's go home." "She's with me tonight, honey," Jockstrap said, tugging Sadie's arm away from Jane. He looked down to Sadie with a smarmy smile. "Aren't you, baby?" Sadie squinted up at him. When she looked back at Jane, sparks of awareness surfaced. She pushed against his chest. "I gotta go." "You don't gotta go," he said, dragging her back. "Stay with me, baby. We're having fun, aren't we?" "How about I bring her back tomorrow?" Jane said, "when she's not wasted." Sadie stumbled as Jockstrap twisted to put himself between the 2 women. "I've made an investment here." Charming, Jane thought, recoiling from his stale beer spittle. She was quick in a fight and had the advantage of being sober, but Jockstrap had 100 pounds on her and a hard-on with a destination. She knew Ethan wouldn't tolerate her pulling a knife in Riptide, so she'd have to dissuade Jockstrap some other way. She looked to the floor. For Sadie, she'd expose her marks. Only for Sadie. An eyeful of ugly often gave her a split-second advantage. He was already wobbling. Shouldn't be too hard to knock him on his ass. She shifted the grip of her helmet, widened her stance, and drew a calming breath. Then, in one swift motion, she swung the curtain of her hair away from her face. "She's going home," Jane said, pressing upward into Jockstrap's personal space to ensure he got a good look at the thick, blood-red birthmark that slashed an angle from her forehead to her temple. It looked like the work of a medieval battle axe. He shrunk back with a familiar snarl of revulsion. Already primed, Jane was ready to launch when a firm hand landed on her shoulder, halting her. "Everything all right here?" Ethan asked, squeezing harder than he needed to. Jane felt a pinch of resentment at his interference. Jockstrap's gaze darted to the figure standing behind Jane. Ethan wasn't big, but his reputation was. You didn't cross him unless you had generous sick leave benefits. Jockstrap's nostrils flared. He pinched his lips. Neither man moved. Long seconds later, Jockstrap faltered and blew out a deflating breath. His bravado and sure-bet attitude faded along with his hopes of getting laid. He released Sadie with a little shove. "Go on, then," he said. "Take out the trash." He stalked away and called over her shoulder. "And it's Tom, not fucking Tim." "Yeah," Jane mumbled, "not fucking Tom either." With a shake of her head, Jane settled her hair back into place. She wrapped a steadying arm around Sadie's shoulder and turned her around, bumping into Ethan, who stood in their path. "You okay?" he said, but his expression was a warning. She'd forced his hand, and he didn't like that. "Yeah, watch my ride? I'll come by in the morning to pick her up." "Jimmy'll keep an eye on her," Ethan said, before he swaggered back to the bar. Ethan's faith in the stubble-faced panhandler who hung around the bar was a mystery to Jane. She opened Sadie's purse and fished out her keys. Chapter 2. Rick. Rick Atkins kept his back to the dance floor and gazed at Sadie's reflection in the mirror behind the bar. Not that Sadie would recognize him in glasses and a full beard, but vigilance had served him well to this point. He wouldn't tempt fate when he was so close to his end game. He watched the woman who called herself Jane flash her markings like a blowfish in the face of the predator shark who groped at Sadie. Jane had no inkling of the damage she was capable of inflicting. But not for long. Rick downed his beer and slinked out the door.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. I am doing a happy dance over here, guys, because I'm crazy about urban fantasy. So to have the amazing Miss JP here with us, and Madame, how are you today?
I am just terrific. Thanks for having me on, DC. Really appreciate it.
I am thrilled you're here. These are the days that having a podcast, talking to authors about books, just makes my dreams come true because we're talking urban fantasy. This is officially my little heaven. It's one of those things. It's fun to write, but unless people realize I'm an avid reader of it. So I'm so happy you are too. So thank you.
That's why I write it. It's my favorite thing to read, so it's my favorite thing to write.
I have met a kindred spirit. I am ecstatic. Let's jump into the book because I am super, super curious. What is this book about? Give us an insight into this.
I will. It's a story of Jane Walker. She was born with blood red birthmarks that snake around her body and cover her from head to toe, pretty much like a chain would have. And she thinks they're birthmarks. So she's raised with these marks and they make her a target for kids. You know how they can be bullies. And she turns into being ashamed of them and not wanting to display them and gets a job where she can hide them. She works in a plant nursery. And so she is absolutely tickled when one day she notices one of the marks has disappeared. It's gone. And then a couple of days later, another one disappears. So she's thrilled. These marks are disappearing. They've been the bane of her existence. And then she delivers flowers one day to a professor out at the university in Vancouver where the book is set and drops her gloves. And he notices the mark on the back of her hand and he recognizes it because he has a print of it on his wall. And she doesn't understand until he explains to her that is not a birthmark, that's a blood mark and it's a protection. And when it's gone, whoever you're being protected from or whatever you're being protected from will be able to get to you. So she has to figure it out before that last mark disappears.
Oh my God, this poor child, your entire life. You hate these things. These things are finally going to leave. And they're like, and somebody's going to kill you. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's just,
And listeners, if you're not a fan of urban fantasy, this is the world. Like everything you think's supposed to be good, then it flips on your
no.
head. Jane, I'm praying for you. I'm so sorry, girl. It's about to go down. Tell us a little bit about what made you decide to write this book.
I was looking for something different because I had just finished writing another series. That series was about a group of people who could fly. So I wanted something completely different. So the marks were different. It was a different kind of magic. She actually travels to the past in her dreams in this book. So that's another part of it. I also wrote it in third person, where I had been writing in first person before. So it was a challenge. It was a new project. I was just so happy to get to know a new cast of characters. And I took inspiration from a scene from a TV program called Blind Spot. And in the opening scene of that very first episode, a duffel bag has been dumped in Times Square and they've cleared the square. It's nighttime and a bomb squad tech is going in to investigate this bag when an arm pops out the top, zips it open from the inside, and up pops this character who is absolutely covered in tattoos from the neck down, doesn't know who she is, why she has the marks, and how she got there. And that really intrigued me. I wondered what it would feel like to have markings that weren't of your choosing and how you would live your life with these markings. From way back when I saw that, it had been tweaking in my head, and then it turned into this.
That's such an amazing trigger because I've seen the beginning of it and you're looking at it like, oh, it would suck to be that girl.
Yes.
Ooh, I love how inspiration finds writers in all the most amazing places.
Yeah.
Because to take that and make it a little bit more profound, because she woke up like she was an adult when she got tagged. You're talking about a child that was raised this way. And
Mhm.
she literally validated this. She completely said, this is how I was raised, and it has messed with my life. But to know that it was done unto you, that is deep.
Yeah.
Is this a standalone book or is this a series?
It is a standalone book. All my books are standalone because I do not like cliffhangers. I don't like them at all. I do put the backstory, weave it in the first couple chapters so that you're not lost. You can figure out where you're going. But this is the first. And I do have a second book written in this series, and it's just at the edit stage now. And it too is a standalone book. I think there'll be maybe 3 books in this particular series so far, I can see.
How does your series come together with standalone books? Can I pick any of them up at any order?
You can. I always recommend you start with the first because it's my favorite. Like in the other series, this one, there is only one right now, but in the other series, the first book is where she figures out why she's losing gravity. She doesn't know that she can fly. She just knows that every once in a while she starts floating away and it is very inconvenient and embarrassing. And so she has to figure out what is happening to her. So that's what I like about that book. That's what makes it fun to me. And in this one here, I got to tell you that her sidekick, Sadie, who is a hooker, is a hoot. I really had fun developing that character because they're a little more straight laced in the first book. They don't live on the wrong side of the tracks. Jane and Sadie live on the wrong side of the tracks. So that made it fun. It was a lot of fun.
I like the fact that you're taking characters that sometimes we take for granted, is the characters that we dismiss and give them a book. I think that is so much fun because it makes you question how you look at people. It's like, do you really know as much as you think about people?
That's true. It's true. Like you wouldn't know when you meet Jane, you would never know that she lives with a roommate who's a hooker on the side. That's something she does to get extra money. I just made it very normal that she needed money. So she just turn a trick, get money.
Least is her choosing to do this. She's not being made. I'll give you that much. I appreciate it. In this story, as you take these characters on an adventure, what can our listeners be prepared to engage? Is this going to be a dark drama? What kind of urban fantasies should they be expecting here?
It's going to be fantasy light. So it's not based in a different world. It is set in Vancouver in Canada's West Coast. It is 25-year-old characters. They do get into trouble and they get into fixes. There is violence in it and a little bit of time travel that is very unexpected because it happens during her dreams.
I enjoy the fact that you gave a very easy disclaimer. It's an adult fantasy. So for everybody listening, it is meant to be urban fantasy for adults. This is now YA, so everybody can be prepared. I want to switch a little bit about your writing career. How long have you been writing for?
I've been writing for 11 years now. I put out the first book, I think, in 2012. Gosh, yeah, that seems like a long, long time ago.
It's been a very long 10 years.
It has. I've learned a lot as a writer. I've learned a tremendous amount. Also, I indie publish, so I've learned a lot through that process about covers and such. The first couple of books that I did were the original series, and I realized after I had, I think, the fourth book out, I had to switch my game because I was getting so much feedback in person and in writing from people that thought the books were religious because I had the covers were beautiful, but they didn't target specifically enough the urban fantasy crowd. And the titles were originally Awakening, Revelation, Redemption, and Penance, which were the themes of the books. But were not good titles. I had to come to terms with hiring a proper cover designer. I was using a graphic artist prior to that who was very talented and made beautiful covers, but didn't know about targeting for book covers. Lesson learned. Had to pretty much start fresh with new titles and new covers. But boy, what a perfect cover choice. JD and J Designs as the cover people. They did a wonderful job. The first cover they did for me for the New Awakening, which was called Secret Sky, won best cover for all of Kobo in the year it came out in 2018. So very, very happy with having gone that route. And now I use them for all my covers and I get lots of help with the titles. I don't try to come up with them on my own anymore. I'm not very good at it, I have to figure out.
For anybody who's interested in being a writer, I think sometimes we take for granted that we do judge a book by its cover. So,
Absolutely.
writers, aspiring writers, if you do not get this right, you're lying to yourself because you do it too. Everybody judges a book by its cover, but it's not a bad thing. It's what helps us to judge where we at. Like, is this book going to attract us? We're human and we're attracted to what we see first. That's just the nature of it. So when it comes to a cover, it makes a big difference if your cover happens to fit the genre that everybody knows.
Yes.
So I completely agree. I can tell you I went on the same path with my books and I was like, oh my God, how bad is this cover? Like, we think romance. I was like, oh, definitely bad. Definitely bad.
So true. Yeah. So much to learn in this business. So much to learn.
The beautiful thing is you're still passionate about it. You've seen the industry change. What is the one thing you've seen change that has been really exciting for you?
I think the ability to reach readers with your books without the stigma attached, because there used to be a stigma attached if you indie published your books. And that's one reason why I don't call it self published. I call it indie published because it's like indie music, it's like indie film. It's people who don't want to be stuffed into a box by the gatekeepers. I think that is the biggest thing to come out of indie publishing is that you can mix genres if you want. You can put out a book that is maybe not as popular as what's commercial that year. You can put out a book that's similar to someone else's and not have somebody say, "Whoa, no, not this time, not for you." And you can also have your book out there for 6 months, a year, and build sales rather than have to have all the sales happen immediately or your book get pulled from the shelf. So all of those things about indie publishing as it's taken off are terrific things for readers and for writers.
JP, you have said something that I think most people take for granted. It is an industry now, not just a bunch of people in a vanity press. It is not self publishing. It is professionals creating professional work and competing in a market that sometimes was kind of gated. We did have those gatekeepers that didn't let us play. So I love the way you have described it. It has grown into an industry. So that is beautiful. In your writing career, what has been the one lesson you have learned that you're like, "Oh my god, I wish I would have known this from the beginning?"
Oh, how hard it is, I suppose. I thought when you, like the first book that I finished, I was so proud of myself. I was floating on cloud nine. I thought, oh my God, I did it. I can't believe it. And then the marketing of it started. And that part was so out of my wheelhouse. I couldn't even summarize the book back then in 2 sentences. The elevator, it was beyond me to be able to talk about the book. It was beyond me to figure out how on earth I was going to get people who were my audience to find the book, how to make it discoverable. So that part has been very, very difficult. And I must say that getting a publicist to help me with that part of it was the best thing that I have done. It took a huge weight off my shoulder because, again, I'm not a cover designer. I shouldn't be designing covers. I am not this marketing publicity genius. I shouldn't be trying to do that because I'm not good at it. So, yeah, lesson
So
learned.
beautiful lesson. And also the fact you're very comfortable in knowing that you can outsource things. And that is okay.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's part of indie. That's part of being indie is you put a team or you collect these people around you, the team that you need. And it takes a while. It takes a while to find the editors that you work well with and are available when you need them. Cover designers, same thing. It's a process. You've got to learn to get comfortable with that process. But I don't even do my back of book anymore because I'm not as good at it as a copywriter. So I hire people who have copywriting skills that can make the back pop. I get help with the titles. I'm very indie in that sense that I know what I'm good at and I am learning the hard way when I'm not good at.
Well, somebody has made us believe that we're supposed to do everything. Like traditional publishers don't do anything. They have an entire team,
Mhm,
and each person specializes in these little babies.
mhm.
The author writes, and then they market everything else and they target what they need to do. We're the only ones that feel like, well, I'm indie, I'm independent, I'm supposed to do it. No, you're not supposed to do it all. You're supposed to know where to go to get it all done. You're responsible to get it all done. Doesn't mean you physically have to get it all done. So thank you. Because I think you're probably one of the first persons that have actually stated that it's okay to get help in everything else.
Yes. Yeah. It takes a while. It takes a while to come to that place where you're comfortable saying, okay, I'm absolutely lousy at titles. I will ask somebody else to figure that out for me. I wish I was good at it all.
It's very exhausting. I'm pretty sure. After a while, you're like, this is a lot of work in many different areas. You would not sleep. Is there one book that has truly impacted your career
Wow, one book that has impacted my career.
or an
You know,
author?
what happens is at different stages, different things inspire me and impact me. And I've got to say, just before I started writing Bloodmark, I was reading Victoria Aveyard's Red Queen series, and she blew me away with the magic. There's so much magic. It was an eye opener for me because I thought I was using a lot of magic in the first series and realized I was using nothing compared to what she puts in it. So I'm actually going to take that lesson I've learned from her. It's not going to be in this series, but in my next series, it's going to have a lot more magic.
Ooh, yes. I appreciated her work and I appreciate the fact that you took it to say, I'm allowed to add a lot more magic to my stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But what advice would you give an up and coming author?
The thing that I hear most is that people either don't know where to start or they get overwhelmed by the process. And so, what I would tell people is you don't have to start that way if you don't want to. You don't necessarily have to have an outline to start. All you need is one scene. Think of one scene that you want to write and write that one scene and write the hell out of it. Make sure it is absolutely polished. And when you're done that one scene, you take a look at either side of that scene and write another scene. And eventually you will have maybe a short story. You might have more. That's how my first book came to me. I wrote one scene. I had no intention of writing a book. I was just having fun with words. I was just having fun. And it turned into a book, which was a big surprise. Now, I don't write that way anymore. I do plot out and outline. I do a bit of outlining and then I fill in middle bits when I'm writing it. So that's my pantser part, but I do outline. For a new writer coming, don't think you have to have the big idea all at once. Once you start writing, it will come to you. And the next time you might outline, but just start writing. You'll have fun.
Can we say that again? Have fun.
Have
It is a
fun. Yes. Yeah.
it is a fun journey. Enjoy
Yeah.
it. Why do we
Yeah.
make it so painful?
I know. And when I was first doing it, because I didn't have these expectations of a book and a deadline or anything like that, I would force myself to do the house cleaning so that I could get to the writing, which was the fun part. And that was my reward for vacuuming or dusting or making that meal. So, yes, it is supposed to be fun. It is.
Thank you. I blame Hemingway and every single author that sits there and tells us we're supposed to bleed on the page. I'm like, please don't bleed on the page. Go out there and enjoy yourself. It's an amazing
Yes.
journey.
Laugh on the page. Laugh.
Thank you. Thank you. Just go on the journey. Where can our listeners find you where they can learn more about the books? Tell us.
They can find everything to do with me in the books at jpmcleanauthor.com.
Awesome. Easiest way to contact you through the website. Should they check out social media?
If you go to the website, all my social media is there. You just have to click a button. You don't have to remember anything. Just click on the Twitter thing or the Facebook little icon or the Instagram, and you can just connect with me there. I love talking to readers. Love it. Call me.
You are invited, my friends. Go ahead. Emma, before you leave us, because I could chit chat with you forever. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Oh, okay.
Easy peasy. Do not think too much about this. Let's see how you do. Orange juice or apple juice?
Apple,
Nice. Chocolate ice cream or vanilla?
chocolate,
Okay. City or country?
country,
Got you there. You had to think about it. Camping or hotel?
hotel. That was quick, eh?
Here's a little different one. Let's see how you do with this one. If you could be any Disney princess, who would you pick?
Sleeping Beauty.
Really? Why?
I don't know. It's the first name that came to my head. The other one, I couldn't remember her name with the dwarves. Snow White. Snow White
Yep.
was the other one. Yeah. Yeah. Sleeping Beauty, I just remember her laying there on the bed. And I thought, that sounds comfortable.
I have a feeling that of all the princes, she has the easier job. Like literally, like everything happens around her. Nice job, madam. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
I will say, I hope all of your readers have a lovely day.
So do I. Thank you so much, madam, for joining us. To our listeners,
It's been my
usual,
pleasure.
it's been an awesome pleasure, madam. Listeners, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you guys had as much fun as I did. Go check out Miss JP's book. Check out the website. Have some fun. We'll be back with another amazing author. So make sure to check out the link if you're interested in checking out the Patreon community. Bye, everyone.